What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful day today. Beautiful day. The day is over though, so it's a beautiful night. Weekend is over. It's Sunday. Sunday night. Time change. And all day I feel like I'm an hour off for some reason. Fresh cup of tea. Hot. Made it with fire. So when the time changes, I appreciate the weekend being longer. You know, every time you look at the clock, you're like, oh, it's only 1:30, it's only 2. You know, it feels like a lot later. But then it gets dark, and I don't mind that. It makes it feel like the evening is longer for me. Get home, relax, and usually it gets darker, and you go, okay, we're getting to that time now where we have to go to bed or something, although I go to bed late. But now the time changed, it gets dark at like, I don't know, 5:15 starts getting dark out. And there's a bit of a coziness to it, it's like a cozy feeling to that. So anyway, today I spent the day painting around the house. And I'm a type of guy, when I paint, it has to be, to the point where you look at it and you go, that looks like there's multiple coats on there. Some people, they paint and they do like one coat and they're done. I gotta do at least 3. Otherwise, to my eye, it doesn't look right. And then in my brain, man, I can't stop it. My brain will think of everything in my life. Like I take inventory while I paint. I go, okay, I did this, I did that in first grade, kindergarten, I did that. Like I go through my entire life. I replay conversations 40 years ago. I mean, just old stuff, classic. And I don't know, I just can't shut it off. It's I get into this pensive state of mind, and my mind just keeps thinking. I don't know what other people do when they do things like that. When you're kind of like concentrating, like, let's suppose you're a carpenter and you're hammering a brand new floor in, plywood, get the hammer out. Am I the only one that the mind wanders and starts to think of things from the past? I think a lot of people are like that. But I just can't shut it down. It's like, pick a year, like 4th grade will pop into my brain and I'll do a review of that year. Everything that I can remember happened in the 4th grade will come into my mind. Then I'll move on to something else. So, it's always been that way. But we're done. Well, I'm done. So I'm just me. And what I'm gonna do is go upstairs, take a hot shower, wash up, rinse, shampoo, all that stuff. And then I'm gonna get into the bed and take a nice, hopefully deep sleep. Gotta change all the clocks today. Get up, change all the clocks. Feel like Doc Brown. Matter of fact, I went last night and I saw Back to the Future, the 40th anniversary. I cannot believe 40 years have passed since I saw that movie. I've said it before, I'm gonna say it again, and I've said that before, and I'm saying it again, but I remember that it was like Labor Day weekend, and my cousins were over. And they say, hey, what do you want to do? And they were there all day, and then at the end of the day, we're thinking something else to do. So we said, let's go see a movie, Back to the Future. And I go, yeah, that looks like a good one. I was a fan of Michael J. Fox from Family Ties. So we went inside. I sat on the left side, the aisle seat, about 2/3 of the way down, next to my cousin. And I thought it was a cool movie, but I'm fascinated with time travel. I'm fascinated. I wish I could you know, do some traveling back and forth, but I cannot. So we went, saw the movie, and you know, we enjoyed it. Then we went out to eat. But, and I don't think Jay is a real name. I think he said years ago that he came up with that because it sounds better, and it does. Michael Fox, it's too abrupt. Michael J. Fox sounds like, you know, some kind of businessman, important person with a J. So anyway, yeah, the other thing, painting is a little bit cleaner these days than it used to be. In the old days, I remember they would say, well, if you want the paint to last, oil-based paint. And I don't think most states carry oil-based paint anymore. I know California doesn't. You can't even drive it across the border. But they make good latex paint. And I remember years ago I was purchasing paint. This was when they had the option, and my father said to me, get the he called it water paint, not latex. I think it's the same thing. And he said to me, get the water paint. He goes, it's cleaner, you can clean the brushes more easily, you know, your hands, it dries quickly. And I said, all right. So I went over there, I went down to the professional place. They had an actual building where they sell paint, unlike now where Lowe's does everything. And a guy says to me, can I help you? And I say, yeah, you can. And he says, what do you need? And I said, I want this color. And I said, I wanted water paint. And he looked at me like, you know, almost like I insulted him. He goes, you mean latex? And I go, yeah, latex. And now I went to get the paint, and the guy said to me, what do you want the water base, right? And I said, yeah, latex, right? He goes, yeah, latex is water based. I want to go back and tell that guy, see, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and tell him, you know what, it's water based. What are you correcting me for, you know? So something about, though, I don't know if it's, you know, which paint lasts longer, but something about the fact that it was made out of a petroleum product, oil-based, and that it took, I don't know, 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours to dry, gave the impression to me back then that it was more durable. Otherwise, why go through the hassle? But I think the latex paint is very durable, and I read, you know, these reviews, and they said it's even better in terms of lasting long or longer than oil-based. So, and I have no idea, you know, I mean, I do know, I don't want to say I have no idea, but I do know in those days when they would paint your room nice and fresh, the ceiling and everything, your room had that brand new paint smell. And now I painted, I don't smell anything. I think they got rid of, what is it, VOX or whatever that chemical thing that they call in paints. I think they got rid of that, or they lowered it. And so you don't smell that anymore. You can paint a whole room, leave the windows open for an hour, and it's fine. You don't have that extra heavy fumey smell, which I don't think was good for you. Maybe. So yeah. That's how it was back then. They would paint your room. My parents would paint like the trim or something. You'd go into the room, it smelled brand new. Had that brand new room smell. I remember in the third grade, I went home and they were wallpapering my room. My parents decided, you know what, this third grader needs some wallpaper. So they did, and it lasted many years. I was, let me see, so not that many, about 6. So after 6 years, my father, he decided, you know what, let's change it up. So they went, they got the machine with the steam and everything. They removed all the wallpaper out of my room, and then they bought some fancy vinyl feeling wallpaper with stripes. I kind of picked it out. I said I want a gray and white type look. And they did my whole room. And when I first went in there after they did the wallpaper, it gave me a bit more energy to do things in that room. Looked all new to me, hip, right? And then when was it? That wallpaper lasted many, many years. And then one day I was looking at it and I said, you know what? I'm tired of looking at that. I'm gonna take it down. And it took a really long time because the vinyl was really hard to pull apart. So I finally got it off and I said, I'm just gonna paint it now. I'm gonna go back to the way it was many years ago. And we're gonna do like a gray-blue kind of paint in my room. I did it myself. I did the whole ceiling. I resurfaced it with joint compound, and I didn't sand it. I used the wet, wet sponge, and I kept going over it lightly, and then it finally dried up, and it looked very smooth, as if a plaster guy came in there and did it. But it took me forever. And then I did the wallpapering, took it all down, painted the room. I did like 3 coats, including primer. And that's the way I left it. And that's delicious. So when I go to Manhattan, I walk around and I ask myself, I know everything has a beginning and an end. Everything. And this is in regards to construction. But it could be businesses. Sears, look at Sears. Sears had a beginning. I bet you back in the 60s, they probably thought Sears was going to go on forever. But everything. You see these big businesses now, Apple, Microsoft, Best Buy, Costco's. Is there an S there, Costco's? One day they're going to go out of business. It's inevitable. That's how it is. They have a beginning. They have a certain mindset. They don't change it. They continue. The new, hungrier companies are coming in. They start taking customers, and then the companies you know today as being big monster companies, they will eventually go under. So when I'm in New York, walking around in Manhattan, I'm thinking about how long do these buildings last before you have to start tearing them down. Some of them are reaching 100 years right now. Empire State Building is almost 100 years old. So there's going to come a time where the steel is too corroded, things are starting to fall apart, and they look at it and they go, yeah, we can't repair this anymore, we have to take it down. And what's going to happen in New York when enough of these things have to be taken down? Because New York is loaded with buildings, and they're all old now. So not all of them, but most of them are old. So I was always wondering, what is the lifespan of a skyscraper? Even if it's exaggerated, even if it's 250 years. Even if it's 250 years, eventually time will come when 250 years are up. And then what happens? Can you imagine trying to demolish it? I mean, I'm thinking New York is going to look like a big mess. And then how, can you keep doing this every 100, 200 years, rebuilding New York, tearing it down, rebuilding it again, over and over? But the thing is that that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, look at us now. Is there really any structure still standing? I mean, yeah, there are a few, but I mean, from the 1800s, right? Even houses that old, they look like crap. You got to take them down. But houses are easy. Houses are easy. You bring in a big bulldozer, big claw, take the house right down. Within, I don't know, 3-4 hours, the house is gone. But a skyscraper that has finally reached the limit of its existence, I don't know, I mean, there's probably an answer out there, but there's got to come a time when you look at the building and you go, can't fix it anymore. It's corroded. Even Alcatraz had a beginning and an end. The only reason it's still there is because it's a museum now, but but that's why those guys broke out. Soft concrete, corroded iron, the screws that held that little thing at the bottom together, easy to cut through. the salt there ate through it. But yeah, I think eventually New York, you're gonna. I mean, I may not be around, but maybe in another 50, 100 years, it's gonna be a big construction site. They're gonna be tearing things down, big, And the other thing is, there's so many of them. How much debris? That'll fill up a state with all that stuff. I know we recycle a lot of this steel, but but anyway, I was I was thinking about that, and I was, it's kind of interesting to me how long these buildings can last. Already at 100, and when you go to New York, I don't know, a lot of people, they don't notice, but scaffolding everywhere. Why? Because the buildings are starting to lose pieces of themselves, and they fall down to the concrete. So rather than repair it, they put scaffolding, and then they have these little things you walk through with 2x8s, 2x10s above you. in case something falls, it won't hit you off the head. But every so often, when you really pay attention, you go, there's more of them up. So I don't know what's going to happen. These are questions that make you think at night. I think they're going to say, forget New York. Let's just build a new city in Montana, Wyoming. Start building there. Find a granite bedrock and start making skyscrapers. But I don't even know if they're necessary anymore. Most people don't even go into the office now. Everything is online. You really don't need an office. Stay at home in your pajamas, typing away, get up whatever time you want, as long as you get the work done. But you're at home. You don't have to travel. You lose all that time traveling back and forth. So it's a bit misty out. I see some clouds. Nice and comfortable. It's not cold at all. I don't feel a breeze, so I can't say there's a breeze. But a little bit misty. Good movie. Play Misty for me. I can't tell you. Can't tell you how I relate to that movie. Yeah, play Misty for me. If you have a chance, check it out. I actually went to Carmel. Me, my bride, my kids, we went there. We stayed there a week. Had this little place, little hotel we went to. Good food, cute little restaurants all around. And then we went to the beach, Carmel. But I'm serious, if you have a chance, check out that movie. Play Misty for me. I hear voices out there. What else? What's that meteor floating around there? 1.8 AUs away from us. That means it's almost twice the distance that we are from here to the sun. So it's nowhere near us. Nowhere near us. Almost 100 million light years. No, more than that. 102, not light years. I don't know what's going on up here. Like about 180, 170 million miles from here. So we're not talking, close. But anytime something like that enters our solar system, which this thing is from out of our solar system, and they know that because of the speed it's going. In order for it to be going that speed, if it's from within our solar system, it would have had to have gone around a bunch of planets and then picked up momentum. But that hasn't been the case. See a mosquito there. I feel like whacking it. So anyway, once that happens and you establish it's not from our solar system and it's behaving in a weird way, all the people come out, oh, that's a UFO. I mean, when they say UFO, they mean alien spaceship. You know, and it's not. It is not. It is not. Yeah, that is good. That is good. So that's what I'm going to do. Go upstairs. I've already eaten. I had pizza and a big salad. Like a big salad. Like something like a rhino would eat. That big. On the comments section of the previous video, the Halloween video, somebody said about, you know, Halloween egg throwing, egging people's houses. I forgot about that. That's true. That's true. That used to happen quite a bit. You know, it never happened to, you know, like it wasn't a popular thing for like people that I hung around with, but I remember my friend's car get hit one time, his house, and he didn't even notice it. I was going up the stairs and I go, I think you got egg last night. I go, I see a lot of shells around here, a lot of egg yolk. And he goes, oh, you're right. But I don't think anybody was retaliating. I think it was just kids picking a house randomly, and his house happened to be the one they picked. They used to throw toilet paper, get the toilet paper and throw it all around your yard. It would wrap around the branches of your trees. Big mess. I never egged anybody's house. Unnecessary. But there was a thing kids would do. Most people didn't even clean it. They just left it there. Bacteria naturally broke it down. And by the time the winter rolled around, that stuff was gone because the snow would hit, eventually melt and take it away. Saw the Dodgers win last night. Amazing game. That's a big comeback, you know, the series and during the game. Big comeback. But I remember watching the 2004, not the 84 Red Sox. And at that time, they hadn't won the World Series in decades. Like, I don't know what it was, like 80, 90 years. And I remember watching that series, and they had a formula down that year. You know, you see them following the formula, they would win. And very exciting to see them win. It's like crazy. They won it finally. But they call it the World Series. You're not really playing the world. Just like in basketball, you know, the world champion Boston Celtics, you're not playing anybody else but yourselves. It's the national champions, not the world. Although, who in the world can beat them? You know, what team in the world can beat the NBA's best? Nobody. Nobody can beat them. And I'm going to mention somebody I admire a lot in basketball, and you don't hear much, you know, mentioned about him these days. You hear a little bit, but not you know, not a lot. Drum roll, please. Anyway, Dr. J. I'm a huge fan of Dr. J's. He's an amazing player. He invented, I think, that kind of basketball playing. You know, that Michael Jordan perfected. But Dr. J was amazing. I used to love watching him play. That was one of my favorite players back then. You know, he was up there, top two. Just fantastic ability. The ability to jump, lift up, get the ball in. I mean, he was amazing. And he doesn't get the recognition You know, doesn't get the recognition. Intelligent guy, super athlete, amazing slam dunk ability. But he was good all around. Solid player. You know, I admired his style, his playing ability, everything about him. You know, and he's like the father of the that style of playing. I don't want to say slam dunk. There's probably quite a few people that could do that back then, but he was able to get that lift, and it's very impressive when you watch it in slow motion. It's like a jet taking off. You know, jet with a ball, and then boom, goes right in. You know, when you see it in real time, it's too quick. You don't appreciate it as much. But if you see it in slow motion, it's like when Evel Knievel would jump. When he jumped, it was like up down. It's over. I went to a Robbie Knievel jump, and it was a 150 footer. Looking at it, I go, I think I could do that with my bike, but I didn't want to embarrass anybody by making such a claim. So I'm watching, and we're right in the front, like really, really, like right up there. And he does it, back and forth a couple of times, and then, I go, I got to pay attention here because I know it's going to be over before it even begins. And he hits about 80. He went up, he went down, split second. So when you watch it in slow motion, though, it looks impressive. It looks like it's flying, flying across. It's going to have a nice soft landing. So last September, not this one that just passed, the previous one, last year, we went to the Snake River Canyon jump, which I, had it planned in my head for quite a few years now. I had to be there. Big fan of Evel Knievel's. And I got to meet Evel Knievel's son, Kelly. And the first thing out of my mouth was, they don't really stay up there. He doesn't stay up there that long, he's up and he's down. And I felt when the words came out of my mouth and I looked at him and I read him immediately, I felt like that annoyed him, that I said that. And then he responds by saying, would you expect them to be up there forever? And his remark was a little bit, snarky, as they say. And I was like, yeah, I didn't mean it to come out that way, for you to respond that way. I meant it kind of like, because it's such a distance, I thought that you're up there a lot longer. Like you're up there for 3-4 seconds, but you're not. You're up there for like a second. You're up and you're down. And because I said that, I feel like he felt like I was diminishing the accomplishment, which is not what I was, what I meant was like they're going so fast when they jump that they're only up there briefly because of the speed. That was my point. He took it like I was trying to make it sound like, it was nothing, Although I will say, just to be fair, the distance no longer impresses me. I go to Caesar's Palace. I stand in the front there where the fountains are, and I look at it, and I go, I think I can make this. And and when I say that, I feel like in my prime, not now. Like when I was a lot younger, I feel like somebody gave me a bike, and not the one he jumped with. I'm talking about a bike you jump with, not a bike you race with. But when I look at the distance, and I know people have messaged me on this before. I offended them, and they say, "What are you talking about? It's a lot harder than you think," and on and on. No, I mean, it just doesn't look that far to me. Now, Robbie Madison, when I look at 300 plus feet across, that looks far. All right, I'm back. I got interrupted. My bride had to tell me something, and I got interrupted. So, what was I saying? I was talking about the jumping there, Robbie Madison. So yeah, 300 plus feet, football field. That looks far. You look at that and that's a distance to clear that. But when I look at the fountains in Vegas, I don't know, to me, that it just does not seem that difficult. And if somebody said to me, give you $10 million to do that, I would try. I would try a little bit. And I know it's deceiving, just to be, honest about it. I look at it and I say, yeah, what's the big deal? But, it is a big deal. 150 feet. It just doesn't look that far to me, when you look at it. But, jumping it may be a different story, and it's a ramp to ramp jump. So you have to, be exact, land on the other side. You miss it by a little bit. That's what happened to, Evel Knievel there. He was a little bit short, and he lands on the top, but he created, a bounce momentum. Flipped over, was like a little rag doll. And you know what? When you look at the video in slow motion, the film in slow motion, it looks like he tore his pants a little bit. What kind of cheap stitching was that the pants tore? So, anyway, so yeah, like I said, these days they jump over 300 feet, and that is far. And they're up in the air for like probably 3 seconds. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you count 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, that's quite a time you're up there. You're like, okay, I'm still up here, okay, I'm landing. Where Evel Knievel's time, he jumped and he landed. It was like he didn't have time to think. Anyway, I will mention again that Kelly Knievel helped us out a lot. We went in the morning, we were leaving, and we stayed at the same hotel as they did. And car would not start. Left the light on overnight, I didn't notice it. Some interior light killed the battery. And AAA was going to take forever. We had a flight to catch, and things were like looking a little bit crazy. So I went inside to the hotel. I said to my bride, said, call AAA. And I said, hold on, relax. Go inside, find out. Maybe the hotel has jumper cables. They have maintenance people working here. They may have them. So I go inside, and I said, there's a bunch of people checking out at the same time. So I waited. Finally, I went up there, and I said, you guys have any jumper cables? My battery died. Like I'd have to say the second part of that. And before the lady was able to answer, another lady jumps in. She goes, oh, wow, I can help you with that. She goes, I have something. I said, oh, good. So she goes, follow me to the car. So I followed her out, and me and her are walking together now in the parking lot. And we end up going to the car, and as I'm looking, it looks like we're heading to Kelly Knievel, because he's out there putting stuff in the car. And he remembered me. Probably said, there's that wise guy who said that, that's it. That's how, up and down, that's fast. I mean, they're not up there that long is what I said. So I go, he's going to be like a little ticked off that it's me again. But anyway, he was very nice. He was not ticked off. And he did remember me. And then he pulls out this little jumper thing. And I said, you know what, when I get back home, I'm buying one of those. I have one, but it's big. So I ended up buying one just like his, which is a little tiny thing. So we were talking on the way. I told him how big of an influence his father was on me, and not only me, my friends as well, and my neighborhood. And I told him honestly, he goes, yeah, I hear a lot of stories like that, he said to me. And we talked about, the 70s, when his father was the king in jumping. And it was a good conversation. I'm glad my battery died, because I kind of get to talk to him beyond what I did the day before, where I kind of like annoyed him. So we get there. He puts meets my daughters, meets my bride, hooks up that thing, in 3 seconds the car starts. Not even 3 seconds. Probably about the same amount of time that Robbie was in the air and Evel Knievel was in the air. That's how long it took for my battery to start. And then we thanked him, gave him a handshake, and he went on his way and I went on my way, and that was the last time I saw him. Very nice guy. Anyway, I am going to end it here and be back another day. That's it for now. Ciao.